years old. She was born with Down syndrome, and she's the free spirit of our family. My husband is Dylan. We have 3 girls. We have Ray, Ryan, and Ronnie. They're all super close. We found out that Ryan had Down syndrome after I had an amniocentesis. I was in shock, but I think I was devastated to know that my child, one, might not be healthy. I rushed home to the family and we celebrated what was coming. My husband and I just crying together, like just, oh my gosh, what does this mean for her future? What does this mean for our family? What struggles is she gonna have to face that other children don't?
When my youngest son was born, we noticed that there was some things that were a little bit different. Within the first 2 years, kind of had this internal voice telling me he's on the spectrum. The day that I sat at the table, and even though I knew in my heart what we were dealing with and what he was dealing with and the struggles that he was going to have, I think hearing it from somebody else, at that point, my shift as a special education teacher changed.
Families who have kids with special needs generally, whether they have to be, they choose to be, they feel like they need to be, or isolated. We tend to stay to our own, and not just the kids, the parents, the moms, the dads, the caregivers.
We tried sports, we tried church, the communities and the groups that we had through our older children, or just, they all started to kind of fall away. The people in your life don't always know how to be there for you, and so they remove themselves. It's not always the case. It was the case for us.
When Ryan was probably 2 or 3, we had attended the Down Syndrome Association, their 5K fundraiser. And I just remember going up there and just seeing how super happy all these kids were in the community, and just how excited the families even were to participate. The events start changing. They start having talent shows. They start having fashion shows. And I wanted Ryan to be involved in that. The downside was the travel, the accessibility. It's an hour and a half away for us. And so it takes away the possibility of consistent attendance to that. And it was then that I knew, and I told my husband, we have to figure out how to make something for our community in Southern Oklahoma.
I was noticing that I was having a lot of conversations with parents. I always asked them, like, what can we be doing in our classroom to help you more at home? And I was getting answers like, do you know how we can get involved in this? Or do you know if there's any dance classes, or like things like that were coming up? I kept hearing these things, and I'm like, I don't have answers. Kind of hit me of, there's got to be something that I can do to answer these parents' questions about how can we just get out there.
Robin and I met in January of 2021. Ryan had been participating at a cheer competition. She was on a show team. And I remember sharing with Robin that I wanted Ryan to be able to be on a team for special needs. They have them all over the state, and we're just not around one. One thing kept leading into another about resources for kids with special needs.
Just meeting Sarah, learning about their family and Ryan and what they needed. And I just kind of felt like this mom's pretty cool. Somehow we got on the conversation of, I would love to have this place where people with special needs have like a place to go hang out. We had both been thinking this separately, and we both kind of said it at the same time, and it just was like, oh.
I shared my dream, she shared her dream, and we meshed. When I was little, my person was my grandma. and I called her Meemaw. Anytime that I had an issue, I went to my grandma and I talked to her about it, and she would listen, and I would think, I'm going to get all the sympathy in the world. And she would say, you can do it. I believe in you. So fast forward several years, I found out Ryan had Down syndrome while I was pregnant, and I called my grandma and I said, Grandma, my baby has Down syndrome. And she said, okay. Like, so what? You're the best person for this job, Sarah. When Robin and I had talked about starting a nonprofit, I went to my grandma and I told her, and I said, hey, I'm going to start this. And she said, I think you can. I think you can do it, and I want you to do it. And she had a stroke a week later. Grace is the name, my daughter's middle name, and May is my grandma's middle name. And it really stands for part of what Grace and May wants to do in helping these generational gaps close.
What's so cool about Sarah and I working together is that we can feed off of each other really well. Our ideas grow when we're together. And her idea was always big. And my idea was always like, let's do this cool little comfy hangout, like beanbags and plants, and now we have like a whole nonprofit. So
I was super reserved and super scared to start. How do you fund something like that? How do you get community to want to be involved and to maintain that consistency? How do you get people to believe in your own dream? When we had our first event, I remember just the way people were walking in. They were excited to be here. They were telling us, we've been needing something like this. We've been wanting community. We need community. I think that's the biggest thing that I've already seen is I'm not the only person who felt like we needed this here.
We see what needs to be done because we've lived it, and we're coming in and filling that in.
Whether it be to facilitate resource engagement so that they know what's out there for their kids, whether they just need a community and they needed to be able to have breakfast with the mom like them, whether we needed to bridge a gap between generations.
We're offering community where there isn't. And I think part of what we want to do here is to kind of bridge that gap so that it's not just families with special needs. It's families with special needs meeting the community also and saying, hey, we're here, we live here, we're part of this, but we want to be a part of it how we are.
I think my dream for Grace and May would just be to grow.
We may be small right now, but we are big in our hearts.
If our mission was able to reach more people, I think it just means how much joy for those kids, how much joy for the families. It means so much to have people beside you, walking with you as you go through a challenge. There are families in rural Oklahoma just like ours. Right now, we're kind of Marlowe going out into Stevens County. I see it getting bigger. I see us growing and reaching more families. That would be my big dream.
People are getting new diagnoses every day. So we have to be always moving, always staying relevant and equipping other people to do the same thing that we're doing. That's just how we're going to grow.
Being a parent of a child with special needs, it's really changed my life perspective. One of the biggest things I think that I've learned, that Dylan and I have learned, is how much joy comes out of having a child who sees nothing but joy in life. Ryan sees the smallest, simplest things as grand. And it's changed our life perspective from needing grand gestures and needing big, grand things to happen to just seeing something really small and realizing the simple joy that comes out of it. Today, if I could have told me then, she's thriving. She's in a community that loves her. Everybody knows Ryan. Nobody knows me. Everybody knows Ryan. And I love it.
You know, like when we dropped him off at pre-K, his first day at pre-K, and he was the kid who didn't talk and he hid under the table, you know, and he didn't speak full sentences until the end of kindergarten. So it's weird to go back there because now he never shuts up. He tells you weird facts about myocardial infarctions, and he knows all the names of the moons of Jupiter or whatever. Like he's so smart, and he's so quirky and weird. We just love it. Like he's just his own little dude. Seeing how Case has changed the people in my life, my family members, my kids, just by being here. You feel like you can't be in these places, but you can. People are there. People want to help you. You're not alone. You feel very alone. You have to believe in your kid. You have to believe in why they were given to you.